Welcome to Ghosts and Grit.
Welcome back to Ghosts and Grit. So on this episode, Katrina and I do a breakdown of our investigation of the Twin City Opera House in Ohio. This was a really interesting investigation for us. We do a deep dive into everything and talk about some stuff that didn't make it to air. So I hope you enjoy. Please make sure you click like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And if you're watching on Rumble, make sure you hit that follow button.
I am your host, Jack Osbourne, and I am joined by my illustrious paranormal co-host,
Katrina Weidman.
I think by now, people should know how we do this. We talk about episodes of the past of Portals to Hell, and we go into the, some of the stuff that didn't quite make the cut, some of the things that we didn't actually get on film. Just, we talk about, what happened in the locker room.
Weird stuff.
How was your night?
My night was great. So I'm out here in Los Angeles for this, and my buddy was the first friend I ever made in college at Penn State. He lives out here. He works in VFX, and so I went out to dinner with him and his wife. And they're newlyweds, so it's all cute.
Nice.
And I'm like, just you wait.
Have you been through a pandemic together yet?
But no, it was great. It's always so nice to, see friends. And it's funny. When I met him, he was going to transfer from Penn State. And I kind of convinced him to stay. I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing, because then he ended up going back to school for VFX. Okay. But, yeah, it's just funny. I have this memory of him as like I walk into this dorm room and he's like shredding on a guitar. And I'm like, you're going to be my friend. We've been friends ever since.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What was he playing?
Music. Well, I have no memory of what he was playing. Probably like something Metallica.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
Was he like, what's his name from Stranger Things? What was the in the last season he was playing Metallica on the roof?
Oh yeah.
God, what's the character's name? Eddie. Yeah.
What did you do last night?
I went to see Tyler Childers up in Santa Barbara.
Nice.
It was awesome.
Yeah.
It was a really great show. Very impressed. That guy can sing his ass off.
He's so good.
Yeah, he really is.
And I'm not super into country music. It just doesn't, like some country I am. But he is one of my favorites. Yeah. I love him.
See, I think there's certainly I think country is used as like a catch-all. Yeah. And it's funny because he's more like, I would consider him more like, he's in like a subgenre of country, like that folky Americana type stuff. Yeah. And like, because I think when you say country, people think like Garth Brooks and, run around with like a bedazzled, ass patch jean on. Can we talk about that for a second in the country world? The like embroidered jean is still like a thing.
Is it really?
Yeah, like they love some embroidery on a jean and an ass patch.
Yeah. Are they still bedazzling?
Yeah. I was at Stagecoach last year and there was a lot of bedazzling. I don't back it.
Bedazzling's odd. I feel like it had a moment.
Yep.
It was cool.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
it's okay to move on from that.
Totally. You know, it's like a lot of things. Like, things are allowed to have a moment and then move on. Yeah.
Maybe it embroidered jeans too.
Yeah, I think embroidered jeans have had their moment and they need to move on. Problem is, there's people really holding on to it. And
but then you have things like fanny packs, which now they are all the rage, except they're not called fanny packs. They had a rebrand.
I have one right here.
Do you have a fanny pack?
Yeah.
Let's see this.
Ta-da! Just a real basic. Yeah.
I
I use it more as like a bag than a fanny pack.
That's nice. So but you wear it around your waist and stuff?
No, I throw it over my shoulder.
Oh, okay, so you wear it like all the kids do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm like one of the hip kids. Interesting fact, I just found out, just from listening to the podcast, but Joe Rogan is a big fanny pack wearer.
Does he wear it around his waist?
He wears it in the appropriate and designed fashion around his waist. And I think that's kind of fascinating. Anyway, fanny packs, country music, I think that's, what's funny. I think people would think like ghost hunters. They must like, Cradle of Filth and, and Marilyn Manson and old dark shit. And it's like, no.
I love the Golden Girls. I have a shrine to them in my house. I love baking. It's funny, actually, the darker stuff, I think people expect us. They're like, have you seen that ghost show? Have you watched it? And I'm always like, I don't watch that stuff, honestly, because it's too, what happens to me, one, I get anxiety if I watch other people's shows. I start comparing myself. I start tearing myself down. It's a dark spiral. And it's also, it feels like work anymore.
Yeah.
So if I watch that stuff, I feel like I can't have a moment to myself. I need to go hustle. I need to go create a show. Why aren't I working?
Yeah.
It's just, and then it's like you get into work mode and you're like, that's an interesting choice they did there. And what should it, it's not relaxing.
Totally. I agree. Yeah. I don't watch a lot of reality TV, period.
Because of the Osbournes?
No, I think it's just more between just having worked in non-scripted for 20, 21, 22 years now.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy it because I watch it and I like critique it the whole time.
Yeah.
And I'm like the asshole being like, that's fake. That's a pickup. That's a Frankenbite. Look how they did the cutaway. They've totally made that up. That's all bullshit. And I can't enjoy it. Although I do fuck with 90 Day Fiance.
You were telling me.
Oh, God,
okay.
yeah.
Jack and I, where were we? We were like on the road, I think, it would have been for Portals.
Yeah, it was, I think, season 2, because I got into it over COVID. So when we picked back up.
and you're just like, have you watched 90 Day Fiance? I'm like, I haven't. Why? And you're like, it is the best show I've ever seen in my life. And he started telling me all about it, all the characters, all the story plots.
Big Ed.
Yeah.
He was the big hit during COVID. So like if I do watch reality, it's either like shitty dating shows or like survival shows. Like I love Alone,
which are kind of the same thing if you think about it.
Yeah. People struggling to survive.
What do you think you like about them?
I like the survival shows because I'm like, oh, what would I do? What would and maybe that's what I like about the dating shows, because I'm like, what would I do? Who would I date? I think it's I don't know. I just think it's it's just guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Golden Girls. I mean, what do you like about Golden Girls?
It's the best show that was ever written, period.
Better than The Office?
People are going to come for me if I say that. But yes, better than The Office. It was just so brilliantly done, from the writing to the acting to the direction and I think too, what really sets it apart, it came out at a time where 4 older actresses were front and center.
Yeah.
That wasn't happening. I mean, it's still a struggle today.
It's funny though, because aren't they not that old?
They were only in their
50s, right?
Yeah, so 60s for 3 of them, and then Rue McClanahan was in her 50s. But what's so funny is when they originally conceived the show, the writers were like, we're thinking older women, and they thought in their 60s. And the network was like, that's great. We'll get some women in their 40s. And they're like, no, that's not old, actually. Yeah. And so they compromised on having all the characters, except for Sophia, the mom, in their 50s. But it's funny because they were so scared about putting that show out because they thought 4 older women, who's going to watch this? And the magic that happened, because, again, you just have really talented people making a show for audience members that were probably ignored for a really long time. The show blew up and became a #1 for 6 out of 7 of their seasons and hit all demographics. Yeah. So it wasn't just older women watching this. It was kids. It was men. It was people in their 20s, people in their 30s.
Well, that's, it's funny. I guess that kind of brings up the greater kind of conversation about, and kind of it leads into podcasts, which is, for so long networks have kind of done things that they think this is what people want. People want to see younger. People wanted this, that, they're always, and it's all pressure from ad sales, because, the ad sales come in, they buy the spots on the TV, they're trying to sell, perfume and makeup and fucking cars to like, oh, we need that sweet spot that 18 to 35 or, 25 to 48, whatever the fucking demo windows are. Yeah. And so networks think that that's all that people want to consume. And it's so like off. And then when when all of a sudden with like really in the last 5 to 10 years of YouTube booming, You're like, wait a minute. Like, there's these hugely ignored populations that networks just don't program to. Like, for instance, my dad. My dad's 73 years old. He doesn't watch TV anymore. He only watches YouTube.
Really?
Yeah, doesn't watch TV.
What does he like about YouTube?
He likes that there's the show that he can find stuff that interests him whenever he wants, and there's always new stuff. So like he's really into like World War II documentaries. He's really into like space shows. He loves UFO shows. I think he likes that it's kind of a la carte viewing, and it's what he wants when he wants.
Creators are thinking about the bigger, broader picture, I think. And I think we even see that in music.
Yeah.
Because for so long it was musicians had to be in a certain age group to be popular.
Yeah.
And what I find so funny about that is regardless of my age, I'm always looking for new music. And there's a lot of younger artists I connect to. But for the most part, younger artists, they're writing songs and singing about things I've already been through. And I've already kind of figured it out. So I'm looking for older artists a lot of times because I'm like, I want to connect to something that I'm going through now, and you're singing about that. So it's interesting that, and it's such a funny thing too, because I'm like, as a business person, you're just leaving money on the table because there's all these, it's marketing 101. There's these demographics that are just being ignored. And even if like inherently you believe that it should only be young people on TV or whatever that is, it's just from a business perspective, you're leaving so much money on the table because you're not hitting those demographics.
100%. But I'm trying to make less TV now. You know, I think the model for TV is done.
Yeah.
You know, so I kind of like the content creator kind of, model now.
I love it so much.
Yeah.
It's so much, it's freeing. And it's nice that you, like, one of my biggest pet peeves has been when I do a lot of cons, I do a lot of speaking tours, that kind of thing. And the benefit of that is you get to meet one-on-one with your audience. So you hear directly from the people who want to watch what you're doing, who absorb the content you're making. And they tell you, I like this, I don't like that. And it's the best like market research you could ever have.
Yep.
And I feel like I've been really lucky to work with some amazing people at networks, but inevitably you do hit a wall with certain projects or in certain ways. And when you're like, as the talent, when you say, hey, I know that's not going to work, or hey, I'm not comfortable with that, or hey, I don't think this is the direction we should go. It's always, well, we know best. We're the network. And I can respect that, hey, you know how to do your job, and I respect that. But also I know how to do my job. And I'm telling you, this isn't going to fly.
Totally.
And then it's always so interesting to see that fallout when, then you kind of end up being right about certain things.
Yeah.
But with that being said, something I've really loved about podcasting and YouTube so far has been we have that direct connection with our audience, and it's so much more intimate. And because of that, I think it's more satisfying, not only for us, but also the audience members.
Totally. Yeah. And it's like, I don't know, it's freeing because ultimately when we make a TV show, there's probably anywhere between 50 and 100 people involved in it.
Yeah.
By the time it actually gets on the air. And like when you're doing a podcast or you're doing like a smaller kind of, limited series, if you're doing something on YouTube, because are you still doing the YouTube series with Heather?
Yeah, Travel the Dead. It's on my channel, so Katrina Weidman. And we've really enjoyed doing Travel the Dead. And that really came out of, honestly, it's so funny because it wasn't like this. I had always wanted to build out my YouTube channel, but I didn't just want to put anything on there. I didn't because, it's, I don't know, I just didn't want to do that. And Travel the Dead came about because of the pandemic. We were at home and nothing was happening. And, for work, we didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
Portals was on a hiatus. I mean, for like obvious reasons. And like, I agree with those reasons, but it was also like everybody, you kind of go a little stir crazy. And because all of these locations no longer had people coming in, I was getting emails saying, if you want to come, you're more than welcome. You can have it for a month. You can have it for a week. Like whatever you want to do, it's yours. And
you can murder someone.
Yeah. We don't have cameras. Do whatever you want. I'm like, all right. Throughout my career, you know, I've always had those emails of come and check this out. Can you and Heather come? And Heather too. But because our schedules were always so opposite of each other, we were never able to do it. She and I have a group with another friend of ours, Josh Light, where we took on private cases, just very much behind the scenes, very seldomly because resources are low. But so Travel the Dead very much came about because we were like, let's just go to a place and do this on our own and have fun. It was very much just about getting together, having fun. We were going to put it out just for Halloween, but it worked so well that we were like, why don't we do a couple more? Because again, laundry list of locations. So we did a couple more, and it had to be stopped, not by any of our choosing. We couldn't put it out, and so we waited, and then we put it out, and we enjoy doing it. We have such a great team, and it's funny, everybody that's on our team works professionally in television, but we're all doing this for free because it's exactly what you and I have been talking about, where it's so freeing just to do what you want to do without the notes. And again, not that, I mean, people we work with at the network, people we work with in production companies, they're all so talented, so skilled. I'm not trying to say anything bad about them, but there is that feeling of, I just want to do my thing. Yeah. You know?
Yeah, for sure. No, I totally agree. And, you know, and sometimes, listen, for the most part, a lot of the people that I've worked with on, you know, the network side when it comes to the paranormal, you know, bar some of the folks at Sci-Fi Channel when I was over there, they know and respect the genre enough to where they're not trying to reinvent the wheel. Because it's like, how many ways can you actually hunt for a ghost? Well, with that being said, should we dive into a bit of Twin City Opera House in McConnellsville, Ohio?
I am so excited to talk about this one. This is one of my favorites.
This was a fucking weird episode. Really weird. Firstly, why do we always end up in Ohio?
There's some weird shit in Ohio. I almost, weird New Jersey. I almost feel like it should have always been weird Ohio.
Yeah.
Ohio, we get calls to go there all the time. We meet people from there who's like, my house is like turning into the one from the Poltergeist movie. And the weirdest shit happens. And Michelle lives there.
Yeah.
And I feel like, she's never said this to me, but I feel like there's a reason energetically why she lives there.
It's strange. I try and I rack my brain about the amount of places we've investigated there. So we did Twin City Opera House, we did Paulding Jail, we did State Reformatory, we did
Monongahela.
Yeah, that's Ohio?
West PA.
Oh, that's Pennsylvania.
Yeah, close enough though.
Yeah, I think we've been there at least 6 times, and it's just something about that state that there's heavy woogie boogie there.
There is.
I don't know if it's meridians, ley lines for the for you people might call them ley lines, but there could be some deep meridians there, or I don't know what, but it's an intense state when it comes to the paranormal.
Yeah. Been there quite a few times. It's funny enough, when I was the case manager on Paranormal State, so I read through all the emails, I interviewed everybody we talked to. The 3 most common places we'd get requests from were Kentucky, Indiana, and Texas.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Kentucky, Indiana. Okay, wow. All right. I wonder what it is. I mean, because I don't know. That's weird.
Could also be like social ideas of the supernatural, but I will say, having been to a lot of those states, there's I do believe we experience genuine activity.
Yeah, it's definitely. But then again, I've also experienced activity though in California and in Nevada and everywhere in between. Although I've never investigated Manhattan. Have you done an investigation in Manhattan?
I would love to do an investigation in Manhattan, but I haven't.
You only want to go so you can go hit up a play, or you hit up Broadway after. She's like, so what time we done? I have Hamilton tickets.
Actually, I was hoping, I had talked to the producers about with Portals when everything shut down for COVID. I was like, can we please do a theater on Broadway?
Yeah.
Because everything is shut down. We can get in. That would be fucking epic.
I wonder what happened. I forget what I think it might have been cost. I think they were like, sure, you can come for $50,000 a day, which does happen, actually.
Yeah.
It's so funny. Like, there's a place in LA I've wanted to investigate forever. It's the Greystone Manor. And during the pandemic, we're like, great, the park's closed because it's now a park and whatever. And they were like, sure, you can come. We'd love to have you for an exorbitant amount of money every day. And we're like, oh, come on.
We're just ghost hunters.
We're not like, this isn't like, just because it's on TV, it doesn't mean it's a bottomless pit.
Oh my gosh, that's such a big misconception too. Do you get that a lot? I wonder, do you get that because of the Osbournes and everything?
Yeah. God, yeah. It's so funny. It's like, I think that there is that total conception now, but I think it's shifting though to YouTubers. I think now, because there's so many really wealthy YouTubers, people are like, oh, there's so much money in YouTube, and like, look at all these like kids who are 18 with, Lamborghinis and their little houses, their massive houses.
When we first launched Travel the Dead, there was some comment on there, and the guy said something to the effect of, TV money wasn't good enough for you. I guess you're going for that YouTube money now.
You're like, hell yeah.
I literally make $20 a month. So no.
like, fuck yeah, I'm coming for that YouTube coin. But there is totally that misconception about working in television. Now, when you're like Ryan fucking Seacrest, like, yeah, the money's great.
He's sleeping on a bed of money.
Yeah, because he's like never not hosting something. He works like, 80 weeks a year. Somehow he fits in an extra.
He made extra weeks. Yeah, because he has the money to do it.
Yeah, he can. Yeah. He can build in. Like he's like Hermione in Harry Potter. He's that like thing that can make a travel time. Why was this one of your favorites?
Okay. Twin City, well, it's a theater, so my little theater heart is so joyful, but it is probably one of my top 5 favorite moments in investigating ever because of an interview that was cut.
Yes.
Because it was such a what the fuck moment, and I remember it so clearly that when we were watching back the episode, I was like, that didn't make it in there? How did that not make it in the episode?
It might be one of the, like, out of all the episodes of Portals we've done, all the ghost hunts I've done, it's up there with the, wait, what the fuck? Because the shit that this gentleman told us that he found, well, should we kind of set up, like, what the deal is with it before we get there?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so the Twin City Opera House is in McConnellsville, and this part of Ohio was described to us, there was many burial mounds that were found in the region, so like deep ties to kind of Native American culture and tribes, and there was, I remember, there was some event historically happened as it pertains to the Native Americans in this area. I forget if there was a battle or if they were, I forget. I remember them telling us, oh no, it was this way.
Yeah.
But, we hear that a lot when we go and investigate, locations that have any Native American kind of tie. And so we kind of thought nothing of it. We were going about our business. And this Opera House is very, very large. It was beautiful. And you could tell at one point in time, it was like, the gem of this entire region. Just like any old timely place, there's been a fair share of tragedy and, this person died and they fell through the stage here, or there's always, theaters for some reason always seem to have a ghost.
Yeah.
I think it might be a part of the the drama. But yeah, it was just a really beautiful old kind of historic opera house.
Yeah.
Which with these old places, there's always a ghost named Charlie, and there was.
And the actress who didn't get the part she wanted, so she's doomed to haunt the theater forever, which they certainly had there.
Yeah, there's Red Wine Robert, who was another ghost.
He was Henri.
Yeah, exactly. But our main witness, Eric, he was a retired police officer who, and we didn't touch on this either. This didn't make it into the cut too, but he had a profound connection with this location, almost like teetering on obsession.
Yeah.
Which I know I've witnessed a fair share of witnesses having that type of feeling towards a paranormal location. But it was just a really it was layered. This investigation was very layered, I think.
Yeah. Did you feel like you and Eric connected on a different level because of the cop background?
No, because I didn't really go into it too much with him, because I tend to kind of, I think it's I try and be personable and have a good rapport with our witnesses, but I don't like to get too, I spoke about it a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, not too much. I was curious about, okay, he was a cop for a long time. Like, how's he applying that kind of skill set to investigating? Like, was he, particularly thorough with documentation? Was he, that's kind of where I was going with it. Is he applying these like detective skills, about collecting the right amount of evidence and having it, properly cataloged and all that. That's what I was kind of focused on.
Yeah. And he profiled, what was it, like 14 different spirits. So he used his cop skills to kind of narrow down these characteristics that he was seeing with the supernatural.
Yeah.
And if they were human, then this is what he said this spirit would be.
How do you feel about people who name spirits?
I think it's, okay, we kind of talked about this in an earlier episode, that when it comes to supernatural activity, we put these human characteristics on them. And I don't think that comes out of nowhere, because again, we do hear things like voices and we do see apparitions that look like humans. So I think and there are cases where people have matched up what they saw with historical people that they didn't know existed, or, there's things that match history. So I think in those cases, it makes sense that we're saying, hey, maybe this is something left over from someone, and this is human. And so let's attribute these human characteristics to these things. That being said, I don't think that's the whole story. I don't think every single supernatural event that can truly not be explained is human. We just sort of attribute that. So I think sometimes it can get, because we do that, we're not looking at the entire picture.
Yeah.
And it can kind of, you narrow in too much. Spiritually speaking, there are some religions that would tell you it's not human ever. So doing that, all you're doing is giving an invitation to something very negative to step forward and to do what it is that they want to do, which is usually, seek the ruin of souls. So I don't know. It's probably harmless, but again, I always kind of say, come at it from a more objective place. Like, it's okay, but also realize there's this other side of it, and maybe, consider that.
Yeah. And that, exactly what you said. Because we don't know. There's so many unknowns with this, and it's funny. I'll have these conversations with my dad, and he's like, you don't really believe in all this, but I'm like, well, I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
So, but and that, to that point, because I don't know what any of this is, I never truly feel comfortable naming something.
Yeah.
Because It could be fucking, a dinosaur fart floating around the room. We don't know.
It's Charlie.
All right, let's talk about the witness and what the witness who used to live at the Opera House found.
So good. Okay, so what you guys didn't see is that Jack and I got to interview the former mayor of the town. And the reason why we interviewed him is because in the 70s, he used to live in the theater. And it was pretty impressive. Like, he was in theater, a very personable guy, like the sweetest man, could talk to him for days.
Yeah.
And he turned the entire stage into his apartment. So we're talking to this mayor, like fascinating life story. Mm-hmm. And when he was he lived in the theater, and then he became the mayor kind of on a whim. Somebody was like, you should be a mayor. And he was like, sure.
Yeah, I'll do that.
So then he became the mayor. And while he was the mayor, they wanted to, the police station is attached to the building?
Yes, it was. Because it was kind of the town hall too, right?
Right, yeah. It was like your one-stop shop in the town. That was like the hub. And so they were trying to expand the police station. And to do so, they had to go into the basement and dig out the basement. So we're asking him all these questions about, well, what did you experience while you lived here? And he's like, oh, yeah, it was haunted, like for sure. Like everybody knew.
He actually built his house on the stage and used like pipe and drape to like lay out his house.
Oh, it was beautiful. It was gorgeous. And HGTV would have loved him.
Oh, yeah.
Like, but we're like, well, why do you think something bad would be here? And he's like, I don't know. I didn't have that experience while I lived here. And so we're like racking our brains and we're like, we can't figure it out. And then he's like, well, he's like, maybe it could be connected to this. And we're like, sure, tell us. While they were digging out the basement and they went 4 feet under the floor of the basement, they found an ancient sarcophagus.
Yeah, a Native American sarcophagus.
And so immediately Jack and I were like, wait, what? He's like, yeah. And he's not connecting the dots the way Jack and I are. Like, yep. I think for us, every freaking horror movie we've ever seen is like running through our heads of this is Haunting 101. What the fuck are you talking about? And so they found this ancient sarcophagus and we're like, was there anything in it? And he said, well, we checked. And he's like, there was nothing in it. It was dry, no body, nothing like that. And so we're like, He's like, but he's like, we didn't want to halt construction because it was expensive and they couldn't get it out the stairs. So instead, they took this ancient sarcophagus and smashed it into little pieces.
Yep, with a sledgehammer. But I kind of called bullshit.
Do you call bullshit?
Well, in the sense that there was no body inside.
Oh, you think there was a body?
Yeah, because the moment you find Native American bones...
Yeah, archaeological dig.
But it's one thing to find an artifact, and you could turn around and be like, oh, I don't know if it didn't have like... petroglyphs on it, so how did I know it was Native American? It was just a stone box buried under the ground.
Yeah.
Like I think that you could probably pull ignorance a little bit, but the moment you find a fucking skeleton, it's like, we need the university down here. We need the cultural groups to come down here and figure this out. Yeah, I think it was like, quick, fucking throw those in the river. And
what do you think they did with the body?
I don't know. I mean, what I usually do with bodies. Pigs. You starve a pig for like 4 days and eat anything.
I never considered that maybe there was a body in there.
Yeah, I think they just did away with the bones.
Well, and it's the police. So, I mean, nobody's gonna...
Who's gonna call the cops on them?
The ghost hunters.
How often have you come across human remains on ghost hunts?
1, 2, 3. I want to say maybe 3 times. There was definitely the one where there are more bodies buried, but we don't own the location. So when you don't own a location, at least this is what we were told. It was the strangest thing. We found these bodies in a crawl space. There were 2. They were, yeah, I know. Like Jack is giving me this look of what the fuck. Yes, it is very fucked up. And we found these, they were human. We found them. They were buried. They were like in these mounds in a crawl space in a basement. It's like 2 or 3 in the morning and we call the cops. And not just only because that's what you should do, but like
covering your own ass.
Yeah, but legally on a television show, you have to. And so we call the cops, and I don't know what's going on in this town where it was like common day call for them, but they were so uninterested. We were like, we're at this house and we found these skeletons in this crawl space. And the cop is like, okay, what's the address? We were like, this is the address. He's like, all right, yeah, we'll put it on the list. What the fuck? Like, what is happening where that's not shocking to you?
Yeah, well, that's like just a regular occurrence.
Yeah. So the homeowner had the cops come over, but from what we were told, the cops looked at the wrong bones. So there were also animal bones in the crawl space. And we were told the cops looked at the animal bones and they never looked at the human bones, because the human bones, you actually have to get into the crawl space and like crawl back there to see them. But we had these really high-tech photos of them and we sent them to NYU. There's an anthropology professor there named, I think it's Alexandra Dishotel. Dishotel. That's the reason I remember his last name.
And do you want to know something crazy?
Do you know him?
I know a forensic paleontologist, which I've sent bones to from ghost hunts.
Yeah.
And her name is Dr. By the Way.
Oh, I remember. We used her for Paulding Jail.
Dishotel and By the Way. What the
So that's how you know you need to be an anthropologist if your last name.
It's very unique.
But he took a look at those photos and he said 100% human, male, between I think 15 and like 17, he would say.
Holy shit.
And he believed, like, it's very hard to age bones.
Yeah.
But he thought, just guessing, maybe the 30s.
Okay.
So recent, meaning the house was there.
Yeah.
Because the homeowner, I guess in that area, they have found bones before and they're Native American. So his whole, hesitancy of calling, I guess getting it more looked at was, look, if it becomes an archaeological dig.
It's my fucking home.
Right, exactly. And it's like, I don't, and if it's just Native American, I don't want to disturb them and I just want to leave things as they are.
But why would there be Native Americans in your attic?
In your crawl space. Why would they be there?
Yeah.
So we had a guy, GPR, we had a guy come out, ground penetrating radar, which in the wrong hands is very, very faulty and flaky.
Yeah.
How it works is they see disturbances in the ground and they get a graph. And if somebody is trained, they're able to see and read that graph very, very well. So we brought out somebody who has been responsible for finding like 1,000 unmarked graves.
Damn.
Right? So we didn't have a whole lot of time with him. So he's scanning the property and he goes over the cement porch. He goes over the property. On camera, he was only comfortable saying he found one other grave. Because he was on limited time, he's like, I don't know if I want to go on record saying I found more. He's like, I would want more time with it. He's like, but I can pretty confidently tell you there's like 4 more. And 3 of them were under the cement slab. So serial killer or like forgotten grave site or Native American. I don't know. But they also found like jewelry wrapped in bags in the crawl space. My whole thing was, is this a fucking trophy?
Yeah, it sounds like some fucking Ted Bundy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, no more John Wayne Gacy. He buried people in crawl spaces, right?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah. I probably can't say what my relation is to this individual, but I know someone who knew John Wayne Gacy.
Get out.
Yeah.
Did like they were buddies?
Yeah, like when he was a young man, would go over. Gacy would have parties, and everyone in the neighborhood would go over, and he would go over there when he was like a teenager.
Oh my God, that's Gacy's prime.
Prime. Yep. Target.
How close were they?
I don't I don't know. I never went into too much detail.
Yeah.
But I think it was like to the point where it was like they knew each other. Like their family, like it was like, I guess because Gacy was very active in the community, and so that everyone knew him. Gacy knew his, this person knew his family and what have you, and that this individual I know also knew. Do you know about Bob's Bizarre Bazaar in Kansas City?
I don't know that I do.
He was a serial killer who owned an oddity shop, and he would kill his victims and like sell their body parts in his oddity shop.
Oh my God.
And he never, he would eat them. He was gnarly. He was up there with like the worst, but because there was no trial, he got busted. They found polaroids. They found like all the evidence in the world. And he just was like, yeah, it was me. And he just went to prison for the rest of his life.
Holy shit.
So he also knew that guy as well.
So you know somebody who knew both Gacy and this weird bizarre guy.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about what this person
honestly,
is doing?
It's just pure coincidence because they were, I guess it was just the town that he grew up in. Gacy was there, and this Bob's Bizarre Bazaar, that was the name of the shop, was under his office, like in the building.
I mean, sure, but also maybe don't go into any dark rooms alone with this individual.
No, but it's weird. Like you kind of, I'm like, damn. I wonder if like, don't they say at any given point there's like 50 active serial killers in North America?
I've had this fear for the last year. I keep getting this like imagery in my head that there is an active serial killer right now, and like a young man, like 25 to 29.
Yeah,
and it's like I couldn't shake it all last summer. I kept thinking about it.
Well, I kind of think that like the modern day serial killer is just the mass shooter.
True.
Like that's kind of what it's become. Like back in the day, these serial killers used to be like, oh, I want to get my body count. I want to get my body count. And it seems like these fucking psycho mass shooters they're doing it for, I want to get my body count, and it's like fucking, it kind of feels almost the same.
Yeah.
But I had a friend in the FBI, and he told me that during like the 80s when all the when it was the big serial killer, like, everyone was going crazy for it, the FBI kind of went to the kind of mainstream media and they were like, hey, stop sensationalizing these guys because it's making them worse.
Really?
Yeah. And so I guess the media kind of collectively pulled back on all the sensationalism around these killers.
And that's why they think the numbers dropped?
They think it just maybe he just said it. From doing profiling, they knew that a lot of these killers loved the attention they would get in the press, so they would do it more. And so for me, I'm like, why has no one ever had that conversation with these fucking mass shooters? Like, stop making these guys like household names after the fact,
Yeah, so fucked up. The serial killer connection, that's wild.
Yeah, weird.
Yeah.
But back to your serial killer with bodies in the attic.
Bodies in the attic.
And did they ever find anything? Like they just kind of was just like, all right, well, that was that. Moving on.
So again, all we could do is report it.
Yeah.
Which is what we did. It's up to the homeowner at that point. Very nice person. I like them a lot. But it's their property. Yeah. And if it's over 100 years old, it's an archaeological dig. If it's under 100 years old, it's a criminal scene or a crime scene. And
Noted.
But my whole thing is, I'm like, what if that's somebody's missing baby? You know what I mean? Like some family out there that's been wondering what happened to their kid all these years.
Yeah.
What if it is something like that? Like, so if it was my property, I would say, fuck it, just dig, find out what the hell happened here.
Yeah.
But
you're a decent human being. Not saying that this person isn't, but like. But anyway, back to Twin City Opera House. I wonder why this place could be a potential portal to hell.
Maybe it was the ancient sarcophagus. They broke into little pieces.
They desecrated and went about their business. But yeah, that was a an interesting bit of information.
And I love too how it was so nonchalant to them. They're like, oh yeah, there was that ancient 4,000-year-old sarcophagus we found and broken. Do you think that has anything to do with it? It's like,
who knows?
Maybe.
Well, if I get dug up in 4,000 years and my box gets desecrated, although actually I'm going to get cremated.
Are you?
Yeah, I don't want. I've seen what happens to a decomposing body, and it's fucking gross.
Yeah.
Just nuke me, turn me into some fairy dust, and sprinkle me.
Lean cuisine.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't want to look like God, because I went to a body farm once.
A body farm?
Yeah, have I never told you this?
What the hell is a body farm?
A body farm is where I met that forensic paleontologist.
Okay.
Who they study decomposition. They have an understanding of when they find a body, oh, this is the state that they died in. They will put a body in a barrel. They'll put a body in a suitcase. They'll put a body in the trunk of a car. They'll leave one out in the field. They'll put one partially underwater.
Oh, the water ones are freaky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they'll lay out all these bodies in all these various states, and they just study and track how the decomposition occurs. And so it kind of helps for, murders and this doctor, she did a lot of work for the government, going to war zones and exhuming mass grave sites and determining, age of, these people that were killed or how they were killed. And so it was really, it was fascinating, but it's fucking gross. And the interesting thing for me was, I was there and I'm like, so how do you go about procuring all these bodies that you just
that was going to be my question. Yeah.
So she goes, well, they're all bodies that have been donated to science. And I was like, so wait a second. When someone dies and they're very nobly being like, I'm going to donate my body to science, people often think, oh, they're going to, take my skull off and examine my brain and figure out she's like, that happens very rarely. Usually I get them and I just leave them in a field.
So when you donate your body to science, you're not aware of
You don't get to pick what science.
That sucks.
You don't get to be like, oh, I want fucking foot science to study my feet.
There's probably some weird scientist who's not actually a scientist that is like, I'm doing a study on how to fuck dead bodies.
Yeah.
And we need donations.
Totally. Why not?
What the hell?
If you're into that.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. Isn't that fucking crazy?
Yeah.
So we were there and I was there with my dad and it was so gnarly.
Lovely father-son outing.
Yeah. But the interesting thing was that she said, most of the time when a body is left out in the elements and people will find a decomposing body in kind of early stages, they often assume there's been, of women, they often assume there's been some kind of sexual assault or rape because what happens is when the body starts to break down, it causes your knees to fold out. And when the fluid dries up in your body, your knees retract. So a lot of deceased women, when they find these bodies, their legs are spread open. And so they think that for the longest time, they would be like, oh, a sexual assault happened here. And it's actually not always the case. It's just the way the body begins to contort when decomposition begins to happen.
It's so fascinating. Science is rad.
Yeah, it's pretty cool when it's right.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the episode of Trans-Allegheny coming up soon.
Oh, yes.
But yeah, so back to, once again, we're going off so many tangents this episode. How weird, what was your take with all the Polaroids? We got some
the blue light.
Yeah, the blue ball.
So I think during that episode, I was highly skeptical of that because I think there's a lot of things that can mess up a photo.
Yes.
There's a lot of artifacting that can happen. And especially with Polaroids, there's things that can just kind of mess it up. And we're not in a controlled environment by any means. We have a lot of different equipment with us. And what kind of turned me a little bit was at the end when Eric was like, what's funny about that is years ago, we got some weird blue anomaly in a picture, and we've never been able to figure it out.
Yeah.
What was your take?
Initially, I was like, oh, it's lens flare.
Yeah.
I thought it was lens flare, and then I could remember taking more pictures, and we started double snapping photos.
Yeah.
And the blue light would move. So, like, everyone would stay still. I would snap a photo, snap another one, and the blue dot was in different locations in the kind of roughly the same picture. But yeah, it was when Eric showed that piece of evidence that I was like, maybe there's something to this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Pictures are hard though too, because I was actually thinking about this when we were talking about the Lolari mansion and that weird photo. In the episode when I was watching it, I was like, it almost looks like the back of somebody's head, you know, like in a really weird angle. But and do you get people sending you photos of like
all
those
the time?
stuff?
All the time. They take a photo of the TV. You guys missed this.
Do you ever look at them and try to analyze them?
Sometimes.
Do you?
Do you remember when we got fucked in season 1? We'll have to do that episode where we heard the bump, but the way that they edited it looks like I kicked the wall.
You kicked the wall. Yeah. Well, it's funny because with photos, I always think it's so hard because there's so many things that can affect a photo.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I always go to the side of it's probably explainable.
Yeah.
Unless it's drastic.
Yeah. Do you remember when Kevin Frazier from Entertainment Tonight came to visit us on this episode?
Did he come on this episode?
Yeah, because we
went into the basement,
and he scratched his head on a nail.
He did.
Yeah.
Oh, that was an awkward moment
It
because he was just like, a nail just went into my head, and we're all like, sorry.
Yeah. So sometimes when you're making TV shows, networks will arrange for like press and whatever. And Kevin Frazier from Entertainment Tonight flew all the way to Ohio, and then got in a car and drove hours to come to set, and it was freezing. And he came on like a little ghost hunt with us, and I was like, oh, nothing's gonna fucking happen. But we were getting all that crazy REM pod action
stuff, and even I think with the Geoport, we did a session with Kevin, and words were coming through.
Yeah, I've run into him since a few times, and he's like, man, that was one of the craziest experiences of his life. Yeah.
Whoa.
Talks about it every time I see him.
That's so funny.
Yeah, like it really had an effect on him.
Huh. It's always funny because like I feel like to us we do it so much where you don't think about it as much. Like you kind of put it in a little box in your head and you only revisit it when you do podcasts.
Or in my case, when the kids want to watch the show.
Do they do that to you?
Yeah, they've been on like every now and then they'll get on a real kick and they just it's all they want to watch.
That's so cute.
Yeah.
Do they get scared of it?
Sometimes, but it's my youngest. Second youngest. It's Minnie, who's 5. She's the one who's always wanted to watch it. She's like, I want to watch your show. She calls it my movies. She's like, I want to watch your movies.
That's so cute.
Yeah, I'm like, all right. and then the whole time they're just question after question after question after question. Well, what about this? Who's that person? What did they say? And what really happened? Is that real? And I'm just like, just watch the show.
So you're like at home being interviewed?
Yes. By a bunch of like scatterbrained kids. And then we actually had some pretty, I would say, as far as evidence goes, we got a lot of. It was a variety. It was a smorgasbord, if you will, of evidence with this, between the photos, the REM pod, the ghost box, me falling asleep.
Oh yeah, fun fact: Jack cannot have Chinese food.
No. I don't know if it was Chinese food or getting drained, but I legitimately fell asleep and started snoring.
What did you think of Eric's experience with him being kind of, I guess, lowered down to the ground by some unseen force?
Well, he did. Wasn't there pictures or there was footage he showed? There was something he showed us of it happening, or right after. I'm of the mindset when it comes to like physical contact with spirits, I'm so wishy-washy with it. Because I know you and I have had conversations in the past about like scratching. And I'm kind of on the fence. I don't know. Like listen, with the shit that I've seen happen.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah. I mean, I've seen shit, doors fly open.
If
a ghost can open up a door, why couldn't he like push someone over?
I didn't know really what to make of his experience because he seemed so genuine with it. You know, I don't think he made it up.
No.
I wonder, it was one of those things I'm like, I wish it was captured some way in full. But I also think that's always the case with supernatural stuff. It's like you move a camera angle and then that's where the evidence happens.
Yeah.
But they all seemed really sincere to me. I wasn't picking up on like any like deception or anything like that from them.
No, everyone seemed pretty straight up.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna, but like once again, if you're gonna lie about it, why not go the full fucking deal and be like,
go full force.
And then all of a sudden I was, was fully horizontal in the air, and he said there is no Dana, only Zool. Ask me if I'm the gatekeeper.
Can we talk about Jamie, our producer?
Yes.
Because I didn't even know that happened until, I guess we were with them when it happened, so we heard it, but I didn't understand the full effect of what happened until I saw the episode.
Yes, and we got it from two angles. We had, because he was being filmed, he was like off in the background from one of the shoulder cameras, and then the mounted stationary cameras picked it up. And I've watched it. I remember I watched that back so many times, and you clearly see the chair move from under him.
And he didn't do it?
No, he wasn't like leaning back and forth on it. Nothing.
So wild.
Yeah, and Jamie was very much a non-believer. He kind of thought, like, going into this ghost show, like, this is a fucking paycheck, like, okay, whatever. And this was one of, I think, 2 experiences on season 1 that, like, shook his foundation.
Yeah. And the next one we'll get to in the next episode, because that really rocked him.
Yeah, it did, for sure. I think for me, Twin City Opera House is definitely, I forget about it because I sometimes get theaters mixed up in my memory bank, because we have investigated quite a few. But this place was certainly up there. When I watch back that episode, I'm like, holy shit, we got so much stuff.
It was a lot of things going on. And I think also, I actually think, did Eric die?
You know what?
I think he passed away. He was such a sweet guy.
He was a very sweet guy.
So, condolences to his family and his widow and everybody at Opera House. Definitely enjoyed our time there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's weird to end on a sad note, but I think we're kind of coming to the end of our Twin City Opera House.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Please click like and subscribe below if you're watching on YouTube. And if you could find this podcast anywhere where you get podcasts. And Katrina, where can people watch episodes of Portals to Hell?
Portals to Hell is streaming on Discovery Plus. You can see all seasons 1, 2, and 3. And if you happen to come across an ancient sarcophagus buried 4 feet below the ground, don't smash it. Yeah. just call somebody from a university and have them take care of it.
Please do.
Yeah.
All right. And until next time, have a good one.
Have a good one, guys.